What's going on, YouTube? How's everybody today? Wonderful to hear. So today we're going to talk about this band called Half Japanese. This is their 1997 album called Bonehead, released on alternative Tentacles. This is around their like 11th or 12th release. Half Japanese is a band I don't know a whole heck of a lot about. I've heard about them for a long time and heard some songs and some compilations and some soundtracks, I think. They're pretty like underground big. A lot of famous people have enjoyed them. It was rumored Kurt Cobain, when they found his dead body, he was wearing a Half Japanese shirt. Anyway, they were formed in Ann Arbor, Michigan in 1975. I think they released their first like album or demo in 1977. And the whole thing about Half Japanese, which makes them kind of weird, is that they kind of prided themselves on not being able to play their instruments or not knowing how to properly play them, or I don't know how to say it, but they would always I was watching this YouTube video with one of the guys in it, and he was talking about how playing a guitar is not so hard because you know that the fat strings make the kind of the deep sounds, and the skinny little strings kind of make the high pitch sounds. He says once you know that, you know that if you push this and that, you can alter the sound. If you play it fast, you'll get a faster music. If you want to have a slower song, you just play the guitar slower. And he's like, he says the only chord he knows on guitar is the one that he plugs into an amp. And I don't know, it seems kind of weird. Like, they're very noisy, very experimental kind of band. They were like some sort of like indie punk, alt rock kind of experimental thing back in the day. But this is their album, and you can tell that they've, you know, their sound has matured a lot. Like, you can actually hear, it's not really a noisy experimental album. You can hear like chords and, you know, proper like rhythm and time changes on the drums and shit like that, but it's still a pretty silly album. It's probably not one of their best. I've read several times that there's stuff in the 80s, the stuff you should probably start off with, but I don't know, I just saw this album and decided to pick it up. I think it was only like $7 at Blackbird. I was like, whatever. I haven't owned a Half Japanese album yet. Like, I have some of their songs in like compilations and stuff, and they were kind of, you know, weird, but I don't know. It's a pretty charming little album. There's some really driven, upbeat, kind of experimental songs on here that have a little bit of a noisy aspect to them, but I would never say it was like an abrasive noise. It's kind of like some weird kind of, you know, borderline instrumental kind of nonsense going on. It's very kind of offbeat, very silly, very quirky is the word they get called a lot, very quirky. It's got this guy named Jad Fair on vocals, and he's got this kind of nasally, kind of whiny, kind of limited range way of singing. It's kind of like speak singing almost. A lot of their subject matter deals with like science fiction and horror movies. Frankenstein and Mary Shelley get mentioned a lot on this album, and other songs are pretty much just about girls and like romance and falling in love and like, you know, sexual frustration, sexuality type stuff. Very kind of cutesy at times. Kind of, I'd say some of the lyrics are kind of witty. But yeah, for the most part, this is like this really happy, pleasant, weirdo rock. I guess that's a good term for it. It's like weirdo rock, 'cause it's totally weird. Reminds me a lot of like Meat Puppets. Reminds me a little bit of like Swell Maps and Pavement. This album's 21 songs, 50 minutes. And it's got some like groovy songs, some really forgettable songs. Like, I'd say it's a half decent album. But yeah. So I remember one blogger said this is their second worst album, the first worst being this album called Hello. Like, I don't know. But it's very, very unconventional. They used to get called amateurish a lot, and this album doesn't sound too amateurish. It was recorded in Switzerland. The production quality is alright. I listened to this once all the way through with headphones on it. It sounded completely different with headphones on. It actually made me appreciate it a lot more then, but yeah. From what I've saw on YouTube, there's a couple songs in there. The really good ones are all kind of like these acoustic guitar based kind of songs. There's none of that really on here. This has more like diverse amount of instruments. Like, there's some piano ballads, some bongos, like apart from like electric guitars and stuff like that. Sometimes you'll sing through a megaphone, but yeah. Artwork's just pretty. I don't know what to make of the artwork. Some drawn skeletons, some guy with a third eye, and he's blue. Picture of the band there. It's got the lyrics on the inside. Yeah, but there's songs about, like this song, songs about joy, songs about celebration, happiness. Like, there's not really a downer album. It's mostly upbeat. It's kind of witty. I don't know. It's pretty cool that these guys have been around so long, because this album doesn't really show that they've kind of watered down their artistic integrity or anything. They're still kind of sticking to what they know, and it's kind of cool. Like, you gotta appreciate that they haven't really sold out. They're not really trying to write like hit singles and radio-friendly music. It's still very kind of underground sounding kind of shit, half Japanese. I'd look up some of their other songs on YouTube before I checked anything out on here though, because they do have really good songs. I'd say the best songs on here are like Futuristic Lovers, like Zombie Eye was kind of good, and what was this one song that they covered, a Primal Scream song, Moving On Up? It's kind of neat, but yeah, I don't know. The vocals didn't have a lot of variety, but the songs had enough diversity to keep the album interesting. Half Japanese, Bonehead, released in 1997 on Alternative Tentacles.